No, I don't care. It's not the first time we've got screwed over, but
Yeah.
being the longest resident.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can we please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mr. Barry Hall? Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Robin, good? Okay.
Let me just.
Good evening, everybody.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Creighton? Commissioner Acevedo? Commissioner Lees?
Present.
Commissioner Brooks?
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti? Chairman Morelli?
Present.
Commissioner Creighton is absent.
Good evening, everybody. Before we get started tonight, the zoning board is in receipt of findings of fact and conclusions of law for case number 3333 in the matter of the application of Summit Development and Management Corp. for a variance from section 9-105.7J of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York, to permit the subdivision of an 80 by 100 parcel into two 40 by 100 parcels to construct to construct one two-family dwelling and one one-family dwelling at the reference premises. As the zoning board is aware, this item is currently before the New York State Supreme Court for an Article 78. I have distributed the findings of fact, and at this time I would ask the zoning board to ratify the findings. With that being said, will anybody make a motion to ratify the findings of facts and conclusions of law for case number 3333?
I'll make a motion to ratify.
Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Creighton?
Grant to ratify.
Commissioner Acevedo? Oh, Commissioner Lees?
I'll grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant to ratify.
Commissioner Leonetti? Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
The finding of facts and conclusion of law for case number 3333 have been ratified. What did you say? I know. So, I'll fix that. No, you want to strike it, and then I got to send you the thing. Let me just see what we have open. Case number 3330, application of David Shokrian of Riverside Beach LLC of 100 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2B height for construction of a new two-family house at 269 Neptune Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 171, Lot 140, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I make a motion to grant.
Commissioner Acevedo is his motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Leonetti is second the motion. Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
I recused.
This application has been granted. Case number 3072, application of Lehman Lee of 312 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.A use, 9-105.H density, 9-1121 off-street parking, for renewal of a conditional temporary variance for maintaining a second kitchen in a single-family dwelling at 312 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 51, Lot 174, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'll second the motion to grant.
Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This
Condition.
application has been granted to your conditional temporary variance. Case number 2294, application of Tackle Inc. of 1034 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16H off-street parking for a modification to variance number 2294 for removal of off-street parking at 1034 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 106, Lot 117, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll introduce a motion to grant with the following condition. In the event the current lessee forfeits the lease, the premises will be restored to its pre-variance condition. However, prior to restoration, any new lessee has the right to seek a similar variance.
Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion
I'd like to
to...
add that the condition that the bicycle spots be open to the Right. entire neighborhood. So within the plans, there are 25 allotted bicycle spaces that also will have to be available to residents, not only patrons of the cabana.
Everyone's good?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant the application with conditions. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant with conditions?
Commissioner Lees?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant with conditions.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant with conditions.
This application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. Case number 3346, application of Andrea Safante of 517 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 113.2H off-street parking size, for new off-street parking in the front yard at 517 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 171, Lot 49, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
The applicant's present. Can you please come up?
No?
The applicant is present for this case number 3346.
She's coming.
Come on up, please.
Come on up.
And your name and address, please.
Should I stand?
Yes.
Get yourself comfortable and,
Thank you.
name and address first.
My name is Taylor Rutner. I'm the daughter of Andrew Safante, and I live at 517 East Olive Street.
Okay, so you're representing your mom?
Yes.
Okay, so we see here what's being sought is basically an off-street parking space in the front yard of your house. What is there now?
An off-street parking space?
Yeah, it says you're requesting an off-street parking, right? And the off-street parking size, because you're looking to put a spot off the street in front of your house, am I correct?
Well, we're looking to extend the apron of our driveway
Okay.
and eliminate, because there's a part of it, which you should have a photo of, I believe. My mom said she sent one in.
So right now, you basically have one curb cut, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so from the one curb cut, you're gonna widen the pad or the parking area that you have now over a little bit, right, into the yard, into the front yard, so that you're gonna be able to park a second car at an angle kind of off that first driveway. You're not looking to, are you looking to widen the curb cut?
I believe so.
Okay, well, let me look at that then, because we gotta know for sure. So,
Are you familiar with what
A curb cut is.
what curb cut is?
Is it?
It's like it's where it slopes down, where you would drive your car up.
Yeah.
Like the apron, right? So
Yeah.
Are you seeking to make that wider?
Yes.
okay, all right,
Thank you.
well, so we gotta get some of this, and don't be nervous, but we gotta try to get some of this on the record, you know?
Okay.
So, you know, when we rule on this, it's gotta be down. So what happens is this, now, we see that the lot size is a 40 by 100 spot. I can see that, I'm not gonna ask you to confirm any of this, because I can read it. The question is, it looks like on the right side of the property, there is a concrete driveway, and to its left, it appears to be a lawn. The lawn basically then is to the right of a staircase that goes up into the house that's on the survey. So basically, the spot that you're proposing, okay, would be about 4.5 feet wide by 20.5 deep. So now you know that basically what the code requests, or not requests, requires, is 9 by 20, right? So you're proposing that the extra space be 4.5 by 20, right? So 4.5 is only half the width of the car that you would have to park in that spot. So my question to you is, do you know if the spot that exists at present, okay, is wider than 9 feet, which is the minimum. So in other words, if you got a parking spot that's 9 feet wide, right, and now you're gonna tell me that the space that you're gonna put next to it is only 4.5 feet, I'm gonna say, how are you gonna park 2 cars in 13.5 feet? So maybe the spot that exists at present is 12 feet. So now if you have 12 feet and you're adding 4.5, now you've got 16.5 feet, which now makes me believe that the spot is wider than just the spot of a car. Looking at the photograph from Zillow, I believe it is, that's here, I would venture to say that because the spot is wider than a garage door by a good amount, I'm venturing to say that what we have here is a situation where the spot is much wider than 9 feet. So I would say that if you're adding what we would call a second parking spot at 4.5 feet, I would say it would be safe to believe that from the photograph, I mean, it's pretty clear, that it's gonna be over 16 feet because you got over 9 feet already. So it's not gonna be 13.5 feet, it's probably gonna be 16 or 17 feet. So even though the variance or the denial letter speaks to a parking spot of 4.5 feet, I do believe that the aggregate of the 2 spots is going to be side by side wider than 16 feet. So I think we're okay with that. The question, though, that I do have, which is probably of more importance to me, is that the curb cut that you have now looks like a single curb cut, but you're not really specifying how much wider you want to make it, in other words, the cut in the street. I would venture to say I don't see a reason to have to widen it, because I think that if you're going to put 2 of your own cars in there, I think you can easily maneuver, you know, once you go up the apron to turn to your left to go into that second spot. I don't see any reason to have to widen the curb cut. So if that is on the plan, and if we were to grant it to not hurt the parking on the street, I would probably be more inclined not to grant a widening of the curb cut, because I don't think you need it. I think it would be, in my opinion, okay to widen the parking apron so you can accommodate 16 feet or greater, you know, cement it in or whatever you're going to do, but I don't see a need to make a wider curb cut. You know, I don't want to see spots taken off the street.
Well,
So, go ahead.
as of now, our goal isn't even to add a second parking space. It's just so we can be able to more easily get into our driveway, because with that bit of lawn that comes into our driveway,
Yeah.
with the current curb cut we have now, it's actually pretty difficult to park because people try to squeeze in and they park right to the edge of our driveway, to the curb cut.
Okay.
So then when we try to go into our driveway, it's pretty difficult to navigate, and it eliminates the ability to maneuver a second car in there even if we wanted to, which that's not our goal right now.
So is that
for this.
because people on the opposite side of the street block their own driveway and then they make it difficult for you to make the turn? Or they park right to the edge of your curb cut?
They park right to the edge of our curb cut.
Okay.
So then,
I mean, I'm familiar with that block. I live in the neighborhood, so I know.
So like if you're bumper to bumper on each side of the apron, you can't turn into it. So
Right, that's what she's saying. And they do that, because they do that by my house too, especially in the summer. Okay, any questions from anybody on the board? Anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this? I'm going to move to grant.
Case number 3346, application of Andrea Sabante of 517 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking in the front yard at 517 East Olive Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 171, Lot 49, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
thank you so much for your time today.
Good luck. Next.
Case number 3347. I just said wait. Application of Andrew and Jacqueline Guarini of 99 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 99 California Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 242, Lot 30, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, applicants for that case, please, the Guarini family, or representative of the Guarinis, anybody? Come on up. Okay, folks, give us your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Jackie Guarini,
Drew Greeny.
And your address, please.
99 California Street.
All right, so we
Okay.
while you're here,
Sorry.
I'm going to ask you some questions, try to move this along. So basically, a couple of things. What's your lot size? 30 by 60?
20, it looks like for this, it's the lot size itself. I don't have like the papers.
All right, so basically, it is 30 by 60, I'll tell you. We see it on the survey.
Yeah.
So my question now is this, is that basically, as you know, the front yard has to be 10 feet of setback, or 3 feet with an open porch. You're proposing 1 foot, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to assume that the 1 foot is because you're going to build a deck out from the front of your house. It's going to end like a lot of the other decks we have approved, so you've probably seen it, 1 foot from the property line with the footings or the supports that are 3 feet from the property line or 2 feet in from the end of the deck. Is that, am I correct?
I believe we are asking for 1 foot back from the property line versus the 3 that
Right,
is,
okay,
yes.
which is what we've been approving standard. Now, let me know, what is the dimension of this deck coming off the front of the house? Do you know
The
that?
dimension, it looks like it's 22 and a half by 2 1/4.
Yeah, but how many feet sticking out?
From,
The
it's
house,
about,
10
oh,
feet?
it's about, sorry, it's about 9 and 3 1/2 inches.
Okay. You're not going to be changing any kind of, yes or no, you're not going to be changing any kind of entrances or staircases or anything else, am I correct?
So the only thing that's going to be changing, sorry, just to, I know you said yes or no, is the entrance as it is right now. It's basically you walk up and then there's a staircase that goes into our
Right,
home.
and what's going to be the difference?
And then that's just going to be a full deck now, and then there'll be steps to go onto the deck that will be raised.
Okay,
As it
so-
stands right now, the deck is a little unsafe.
Okay, and the question is, was construction started on this deck already, or
No.
nothing was done, right? Do any members of the board have any questions on this? No? Okay, does anybody in the audience want to speak for or against on this case? No? I'm going to move to grant.
I'll second that.
Case number 3347, application of Andrew and Jacqueline Guarini of 99 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new front yard deck at 99 California Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 242, Lot 30, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alden?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Good luck.
Case number 3340, application of Michael Miller of 120 East Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2D side yard, 9-105.2E rear yard, to maintain a rear yard deck at 120 East Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 107, Lot 176, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, Chairman Morelli. Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of the applicants, Michael Miller and Natalie Bartholomew. I
I'm
represent
assuming those
them.
are Mr. and Mrs. Miller behind you, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
this is
okay.
Michael
Good
Miller
evening,
and
folks.
this is Natalie
Good evening.
Bartholomew.
Okay.
They are husband and wife.
So, basically, this is an after-the-fact
It is,
request.
and to that point, Chairman, I just wanted to make clear, because I noticed it in reviewing in preparation for this evening, that in our application, I said it wasn't related to a court summons. I said no. The answer is yes.
Okay.
It's a court summons that was resolved in court with the Millers paying a substantial fine for
Okay, what was
violations,
substantial? How much?
$4,500. There were other violations involved.
Okay.
It wasn't just the deck. We resolved all those other violations willingly.
So
Michael.
now, is the deck still pending in the list of violations?
No.
In other words, okay,
No,
so that-
Judge Klein said, go to the zoning board, take care of what you need to take care
Very
of.
good. All right, so just tell us how this came to pass and what's the size of the deck? What's the setback going to be? Or what
So,
is it?
so the setback that we're requesting, the rear yard setback variance, is to go from obviously the 20 feet required by code to 5.3 feet. And then we have a side yard setback issue on the west side of the property where we have a 5-foot side yard setback that goes all the way to the backyard, but the deck encroaches on the side yard setback in the backyard. I have
Because of
photographs.
stairs, or why, because of stairs, or it just wraps around the corner
Well,
of the house?
it stairs, it doesn't really wrap around, it just goes all the way to the property line, to the 0.2 feet, as you see in the denial letter from the building commissioner. Let me show you some photographs so you can
Sure,
get a sense
yeah.
of what we're talking about. I
Now, how
have
did this come to pass? In other words, who constructed this deck?
So Michael Miller and Natalie Bartholomew constructed the deck during COVID. They purchased the house in 2016. The house has a history prior to them. When they bought the house, they literally bought it with the violations, but without the deck. During COVID, they built the deck because their first living floor, it's, when I show you the pictures, I'll explain, it's a two-family, side-by-side house.
I get it.
It's almost like a split, so when you walk through the front door, you got about 4 or 5 stairs to go into the basement, and then you got about five or six stairs to go to the first living floor.
Now, just to be clear, side by side, they own the entire thing. It's not like two one-family houses that are side by side, kind of like a semi-attached. House.
It's a two-family owned completely by the Millers. I have, if Mrs. Lynch could help me, I have photographs for you.
Yeah.
As you well know,
Yes, look.
I
So
enjoy handing you my
basically,
photographs.
So then what basically happened is they constructed this deck. The deck ended up being built further back, obviously, than it should have, went almost, 5 feet, you said, from the property line?
5 feet from the rear
Instead of
property
20.
line.
And then it wrapped around. Now, the wraparound portion, how far forward did that come towards the front of the house? In other words,
It doesn't move forward towards the front of the house at all.
okay.
So if we look at the photographs, if I may, just for the record, and try to explain some of your, an explanation for some of your questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
The first photograph is a Google satellite shot. I took this because it's significant for several reasons. It gives you a look, obviously, of the neighborhood, which is East Hudson and East Market,
Nice,
just east of Riverside Boulevard. The pin is the Miller's house.
I get it.
The Millers lived on the west side of the house, and they have a tenant living on the east side of the house.
Okay. Now, just to be clear, that deck, it goes the entire width of the house, or just where the Millers live?
Just where the Millers live.
Okay, I can see there's like a little partition there that gives them some privacy.
Right. So then the second photograph, which you see again is a Google satellite shot, but a further close-up. The significance of this photograph is that the property on East Market, which is abuts the rear of their house, has a lot, a side lot, that's undeveloped and is just grass. Their deck is right behind that
Yeah, I get
empty
it.
side lot.
I can see that.
The next photograph is the house itself, the side-by-side. Again, the Mills live on the right front green door, the west side of the house. In the back, I took this photograph, and I was standing on the stairs that are in the side yard that lead to the back deck. You can access the deck both through the kitchen, which is significant for the Millers, and you can also access it from a small staircase that leads from the side yard into the rear yard.
Okay.
The next photograph is a view looking east from me standing on the deck with the back railing to my back. The next photograph is looking towards East Market. Now you see all those vines there that are bare. I took this photograph probably in February or March. That all turns green and
Right.
creates a nice cover for the porch. Next photograph, something similar, but you see now a clear view straight through East Market Street because of the empty lot. The next photograph is looking west from east. Now, the next photograph is what we're talking about relative to the side yard.
I understand.
You can walk all the way down the west side yard, and then you're going to hit the stairs. The trigger of the need for the variance for the side yard setback is, as you can see the rear deck from the front yard
Yeah.
and
All right,
extends.
so I see the staircase too, which is what causes the side yard thing.
Also, right. And I'll just make note, you can see it in the satellite views, but also on this particular photograph of the west side yard, the deck is immediately next to the garage in the rear of the property to the west.
Okay.
So it's really kind of hidden back there. It's not really encroaching on anybody
Okay.
in any way, shape, or form. The next photograph is the stairs themselves. And the next photograph is the east side yard. I wanted to give you this photograph. This is the last photograph. So you can see that you can get access to the backyard. You can also gain access to the rear fence on the west side, but you'd have to go underneath the deck, which you can do. But you'd probably go in there on your hands and knees, because it's only 4 feet off the ground.
Well, okay, so now my question to you is, since the deck was built, how did that come to pass? Were there other renovations going on in the house? Because it looks like a relatively new house. I mean, it looks like it's a very nice looking house. How
I
did that
have
come
I
to
have
pass?
intimate knowledge of the history of this house because I had represented somebody in court, the prior owner. There was in the house prior to the Millers purchasing the house, in the basement there were gas lines for stoves, and there were kitchens and whatnot for illegal apartments. The Millers purchased the house. What ended up happening when we resolved that first case, everything was capped appropriately, but then not the Millers, but the previous owners put in electric stoves, and put back the refrigerators. And we weren't required at the time to remove the cabinetry and the sinks downstairs. So they bought the house like that as is. So we didn't have any illegal tenants. We never admitted to having any illegal tenants. But what we did, because of the building department's request for an inspection, which they did of the house, and then coming to us with violations and saying, you got to clear this up, we then remedied everything downstairs. In the process of the inspection, of course, Inspector Shu is very thorough. He said, and what about this? So that's how the violation for the rear deck came to the attention of the city and the court.
Okay. All right, so basically, at this point, it looks like, well-built deck, but again, I'm not an engineer, so the thing is, since it wasn't built with any kind of previous inspection, at the point that if we were to grant this after the fact, I would certainly want it to be inspected, that it was sound,
Right.
I mean, that nobody's gonna fall through it or, get hurt since it was kind of built, on the side.
This may be an assumption, but architect Joe Gallinaro drew up the plans which we've submitted you relative to the deck, and in fact, I think there's even construction drawings on the last page of
Okay.
the plans. And I know Inspector Shu's been in now. Did he inspect it for the purposes of,
Just making sure that nobody's gonna fall through it, and I mean, it looks nice, I'll be honest with you.
The
They did a-
framing's been documented by the architect, you're saying? It's
Yes.
the building department.
Yeah,
Yes.
all right. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
getting.
we submitted the plans in order to trigger the denial letter, the permit,
Good.
right.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, I don't have any other questions. I understand thoroughly. Anybody on the board have any questions?
I just have one question too. If you can help me with, earlier in your presentation, the Millers paid a $4,500 fine. To whom and what was that for again, please?
Sure. So what ended up happening, Commissioner Acevedo, was the city issued violations and then summons, and this is common when people step out of line. As a result of the summons, we made several appearances in court, and what we did to resolve the case in a plea bargain, right, because the Corporation Council represents the city, it's virtually people of the not of the United States, but people of the state of New York versus the Millers, okay?
So you're saying that you went from the city to the state of New York?
No, we went to city court on the second floor.
Okay.
That's where
Okay.
building violations are addressed. And they're not crimes, but they are violations, and they need to be remedied. And our code provides for fines, in the event that you're found guilty of those violations.
Nothing to do with the deck. The violations were nothing to do with the deck.
The deck was on the violations,
Okay.
right? But what Judge Klein wanted was address everything to the satisfaction of the city, and then if you're going to pursue, if you want to save the deck, go to the zoning board. I want this case wrapped up. So that's why we're here.
Why was there, I guess the summonses, was there a summons for the deck specifically?
That was included in
was included.
in the summons, in the violations.
My questioning is more of that we have these types of cases coming through. We just granted one. And here's a case where they actually paid a fine going through the city of Long Beach. Yeah. So why aren't we able to do that with the other cases that are similar, that are after the fact?
Because in this situation, the building inspector or the building department discovered the violations prior to the Millers, I believe, right, Mr. and Mrs. Miller?
Well, no, okay, so let's be clear. Once upon a time, before 2016, I believe it was after Sandy, there were illegal tenants in there and these illegal apartments downstairs. That was also remedied in city court, and the fines were paid. Obviously, the previous owner went about putting everything back.
Yeah.
The Millers buy the house. Inspector Shu, I don't know, he can see garbage if there's a lot of garbage, or if he sees something else, he wants to know what's going on. He also obviously knows the house has a significant history. I think it even has a significant history prior to the first violation I dealt with. So he came in, got into the house, legally, asked to come in the house. He came in the house, knew exactly what to look for, found it, and then voila, we get violations.
All right. Again, my question isn't so much to not grant or anything with your case, but it just seemed that I just wanted to bring it up because...
Sure. So it's timing, right? So if a member of the public wants to do something in their home that goes against our code, and they come and they go to the building department denies it, then they come to us for a variance, and it's not us, you all grant the variance, then there isn't going to be a fine. But if it's done without a variance or not up to the building code, and the building department finds out about it, then they're going to get a violation.
This is a conversation that will continue afterwards, but it just seems that we allow this way too often, not that it can't be allowed now, with thinking that we can't levy a fine or someone can't levy a fine for doing that. Because I think all of us, and we, in our pre-meetings and just in general, are tired of individuals coming to us after the fact. And there has to be a way that those individuals, especially if it's the same individual doing it over and over again, that they get hit with some kind of fine so that this nonsense stops.
I think to kind of summarize what you're also trying to say is that basically, and this is not pertaining to their case, but we shouldn't even really be having this discussion right now, but the thing is, to just cap it off, is based on some other cases like one we heard tonight, is that we granted a variance for a pre-existing thing that happened without a variance. What probably Commissioner is saying, either us or someone should have the power that even if we grant that variance after the fact, the fine should be levied for having existed in the first place and coming to us to remedy it.
But you can't. And the reason why you can is once a variance is issued, that variance allows you to deviate from the building code, which would ordinarily be the violation.
So how about prior to?
That's why we have a building department commissioner. And sometimes people get caught and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, well, let's get back onto the case of the Millers.
It's a good conversation.
All right, here we go. I'm going to make this easy. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak for or against this? That being said, I'm going to vote to grant.
And I'll second it.
The Millers heard enough, you know what?
Case number 3340, application Michael Miller, 120 East Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2D side yard, 9-105.2E rear yard, to maintain a rear yard deck at 120 East Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 107, Lot 176, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti? Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good night, folks. Good luck.
Case number 3342, application of 954 to 958 Beach Realty LLC of 416 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16A use, 9-105.16H off-street parking, for removal of required off-street parking at 954 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 1, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Apple.
Good evening, Chairman Early. Kenneth Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202, Long Beach. Here tonight on behalf of the applicant, 954, 958 West Beach Street, which is more commonly known as Lily's. I sat through the Cabana case last month and listened to the testimony. I spoke to my clients throughout the course of this month, and before we begin, we want to amend the application. We're going to reduce this to 50% of the lot. I have new plans to hand to the board to just take a look at. So instead of taking all the off-street parking, we're going to put the tables in the front, keep the barrier and the planters, and make it aesthetically pleasing. We're going to leave the 5 spaces open in the back of the lot for parking.
Mr. Apple, just stop you for a second. Thank you for doing that. What were the number of spots altogether?
The way we really counted it was 9 spots, because
So
there's
you're
5 in the
taking away
back and
4.
4 in the front.
Right, okay. Go ahead.
You know, you can squeeze cars in if you're boxing other cars in, but they weren't really spots because they'd be trapped in.
Thank you.
So in consideration for the concerns of the board, we've done that. We've scaled it back to 50% of the lot. My clients purchased the property in 2021, so they own the property. They don't have to worry about the owner of the property granting permission. This is, something they own. And they've operated the business, which is Lily, since 2014. As you know, it's a restaurant bar. It's located in the West End on 120 by 90, half being the structure and half it was the parking lot. It's owned by the applicant. Again, like I said, that eliminates the concern for the lease. As you know, during COVID, the outdoor dining became the norm, not only in Long Beach, but in the rest of the world. New York City to this day has structures on the street, and they certainly have parking problems, and they have outdoor structures for dining on the street. And now Lily's is the only place in the West End that has a lot that doesn't have the ability to put tables and dine on the outside. Again, it's going to be aesthetically pleasing. Lily's has been there for as long as I can remember. After Molly's went out of business. They're the first ones to host fundraisers in the community. They're major contributors to Michelle O'Neill, the Michael Diamond Foundation, the AOH, the Long Beach Catholic School. Obviously, they're a staple in the community. They contribute to our baseball team personally. As I started to articulate, when COVID hit, the outdoor dining at Lily's was met with very positive feedback. Their outdoor tables were quite often, they were filled with customers, particularly in the nice weathers when you could sit outside and dine. Nobody wants to sit on Beach Street. They have a nice private lot you can sit in, and again, it's aesthetically pleasing. When the board considers the application, it must factor what impact it's going to have. This, like the Cabana, is unique. You've already seen the impact. They've been doing it for 3 years. Now they can't do it because the mandate's over, and they had to remove it based on the city's, mandate, and now you've seen what the impact is. The West End hasn't had those spots for the last 3 years since COVID. As you're well aware as well, we heard all this testimony last month. The cost of food has gone up. The cost of supplies have gone up. Obviously, the need to fill the restaurant is even greater with more patrons so that they could, meet their costs. The proposed plan is a new reduction to have dining adjacent to Beach Street. We felt it was more aesthetically pleasing. Behind the parking spaces will remain. We do have a bike rack as well, which is open to the public. It's there now, and it will remain open to the public. The other thing is, we are taking 4 private parking spaces away. We're giving the public 2 spaces back, because the front of the lot now has a curb cut. We're also giving the curb cut on New Hampshire Street. So we're taking away 4 private spaces. We're adding back 2 public spaces for the public to park. So in essence, it's the reduction of 2 parking spaces to allow us 60-plus tables for dining. So again, parking is a big concern. It's already been tested. We've been doing this for 3 years, and to go through the legal criteria, this is definitely not substantial. We've agreed on the record to reduce the application by 50%, consideration to the board and the neighbors, and on the totality of circumstances, we have reduced it, so we don't believe it's substantial. We've already put on the record it's not going to create an undesirable change to the neighborhood. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's just going to remain the way it was. There's no other feasible means to achieve this. We can't put dining anywhere else other than in that parking lot.
The only question I have, Mr. Apple, and I appreciate what you're saying, because we did hear this, what makes this case, and just if you could address it a little different in my mind, is like you alluded to private parking spots, okay? Now, this particular building that they own, they have, how many rental apartments do they have
I
upstairs?
believe there's 4, and none of the leases contain parking. They don't park in that lot at all.
Okay, so when you said private, that's what I thought you might be referring to, like the residents of the building
No, I
get
was
a,
talking about the you know, the
of
patrons.
the apartments get a spot.
Yeah, no, they don't get a spot. So
Okay.
there's going to be no change regarding that. The leases don't have parking associated.
Okay, so there's 4, how big are those apartments? What are they, like one bedroom, you know?
I'm not sure. All one bedrooms.
Okay, so let the record show that, what's the owner's name? This way we just have it on
Sean
record.
Murray.
Okay, that he said one bedroom.
So,
Okay,
I'm sorry. After the restaurant closes at night, is the parking available to the to the public?
No. No, it's private lot.
So how are you giving back 2 spaces?
Because we're eliminating 2 curb cuts. So there's
Got it.
2 curb cuts getting a lot. One from the side where the people could still park, and then from Beach Street, there's a curb cut. There's also a curb cut on New Hampshire. We're giving those both back to the public.
Would you have an idea of how many tables you'll be able to fit in half of the space?
There's a schematic there. We figure it's going to be a total of 60 seats. I have a bigger drawing here, which I'll copy for the board. I just got it tonight. And it has the amount of tables. The front are going to be 2-seaters, then there's, 4 and 6s, and the back will be 2. It's about 60-plus patrons can
so
sit there.
with the current business plan, and I just want to just maybe bring out a point. With the current business plan, would you say that because there's obviously less seating, does this cause on a busy night patrons to be, waiting for tables and milling around? And would this perhaps alleviate the situation in terms of more patrons being seated right away, so you don't have people necessarily hanging out front waiting for tables or
It
whatever?
would definitely eliminate that.
Okay. Because I know, and I've seen this from passing by, there are nights when it looks busy, like in the summer or whatever, that there's people kind of standing out front, some people smoking or whatever. And I'm just wondering if there were people waiting to be seated, and if there was more place to seat them, would they be sitting down sooner rather than having us be standing out front?
Yes, they definitely would.
Okay.
The other thing is, we're not having any freestanding alcohol out there. We don't have music out there. It's strictly dining.
Okay.
Where are the bicycle spots?
The bicycle rack's in the front right now. We have it there currently. It's in the front of the establishment.
Okay, understood. Next question, any members of the board? No. Anybody want to speak in favor from the audience? Was that question? Go ahead. Sorry.
In regards to, I see the planters and stuff, do you know the size of the planters? I'm just looking at like privacy, like we're not comparing this to Cabana, but I was thinking about more of a way to make it more, aesthetically pleasing with creating a privacy wall with greenery and things like that. Was there any thought in that by the business owners?
We're open to that. The difference with us and Cabana, obviously, is we're not facing really any private residences.
Yeah,
That's just
you're
Beach
facing the
Street.
parking lot.
Right, and that's just Beach Street.
That's
But
just
we're open to that. That was the idea of putting the planters there in the first place.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, let's hear from the audience. Anybody want to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address. Tell us why you are in favor.
My name is Leonard Peters, 71 Georgia Avenue. I'm in favor of Lily's having the side parking lot. I'm also a member of the board member of the Chamber of Commerce. Living down there and seeing what it was to what it is now is aesthetically pleasing. When you drive by, you see the palm trees, the planters. I not only use the bike rack, but I bring my family because there's not too many places outside that you can eat at night, and it is a nice spot. It is more family-oriented than some of the other places, so these are reasons why I am for it, and that's not just me, but it's my friends, it's my family. They enjoy being there, too.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else was speaking in favor? Come on up, please. And you get up, name and address, please, for the record, and, tell us why you are in favor.
Hello, my name is Kristen Plato. I live in the second house behind the Lily's parking lot. It's always been a great place to sit outside and eat. very casual, very light. It's really just aesthetically pleasing, as they were saying before, and really just offers a wide range of tables and, you know, family-style eating and everything. So there are many options.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Favor, come on up, Mr. Lynch.
Good evening, Board. My colleague Lenny spoke
Name and
on
address for the record.
Just name and address. We know you, but we
James
need it on
Lynch,
the record.
16 May Walk, address of the Chamber is 350 National Boulevard. Just to follow up, my words are pretty much duplicate of what I said for Cabana. Only to add on that if you really wanted to see how a business should be run, Lily's does it. They do it in a fine way. And, you know, I look at other things. I didn't add last time I spoke was that the city speaks on behalf of 20-foot or less properties, and they grant them time and time and time. I don't think they've actually denied any. They probably in the last year have granted 20 businesses the waiver of off-street parking. So I would ask that you take that into consideration. I'm not really sure why they have that control of that, but I would ask that you give consideration to this, because the business model of how things are done, especially in the West End, is completely different. People Uber, they bike, they park at a friend's house, they walk. It's a whole different business model. And they found a way to succeed over the last 3 years. They found a way to succeed, so I think we should support that. And I don't think it's detrimental that these parking spaces are gone. It's because people aren't driving down to go hang out in a restaurant, bar, or what have you, just to leave. It's almost like they've been trained to do things differently. And I think if this is the way the business model is, then we should support that. I would ask that you grant that. And from that, if you're all in agreement, that you would grant it tonight so that they can begin construction and be ready for the Memorial Day weekend.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. All right, now that we heard, I think there was nobody else in favor, right? Anybody against? No. All right. You know, if there was somebody against? No. All right, you know, Mr. Apple, at this point, we've heard the testimony. I mean, I don't know if the members of the board would be prepared to vote, but I would take what Mr. Lynch said into consideration. I would be prepared to make a motion on this. I mean, anybody else prepared to make a motion?
I'll second the motion.
I'll move to grant, I mean, at this point.
Case number 3342, application 954 to 958 Beach Realty LLC of 416 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16A use, 9-105.16H off-street parking, for removal of the required off-street parking at 954 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 253, Lot 1, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application as amended.
Yes.
Been doing that?
As amended.
And Commissioner Lee has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant as amended.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant as amended.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant as amended.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant as amended.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant as amended.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant is amended.
This application has been granted as amended.
Okay. That's it. You don't have to add any more.
Case number 3345, application of Frank P. Realty of 750 Lido Boulevard, number 109B, Lido Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2G front yard, 9-105.2E rear yard, 9-105.2K use to convert a one-family house into a two-family house at 455 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 154, lots 23 through 27 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Apple.
Good evening, Chairman Morelli. Kenneth Apple, same 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202. I have this for the board's just...
So this is basically the case of a house that we heard some months ago who wanted to knock it down and subdivide, am I correct?
Yes, now we're looking to put a two-family side by side.
The same house, the same structure, or he's going to build a different
It's going to
structure?
be a new structure.
New structure?
It's going to be lifted and... It's going to be FEMA compliant.
Okay.
be a new structure.
What was the lot size on this again?
100 by 100 on this.
Okay. So, the original, because, I think we're all familiar with this case, the original case that was denied. So basically, the house needed substantial renovation work. The house would be lifted as per FEMA. The dimensions of the house would not change?
There's going to be a brand-new house.
No, I understand, but I'm saying dimension, well, I thought he said that he'd be lifting the house.
You're going to,
Huh? Well, yeah, is he lifting the same structure? No. I want to get that straight.
he's going to go up, he's going to put up two side-by-side FEMA compliant homes.
Okay, but not the
one
same,
curb cut.
the original structure that needs the work, that's going to go, just to be sure.
He's probably planning on maintaining what he can out of that.
Okay, so you might keep a wall or two or whatever, in other words, for architects.
Whatever he can maintain.
All right, so, but basically, my question to you was, is the lot coverage going to change? Like, in other words, he's going to need a variance for lot coverage? No.
The only variance that he'll need besides the change of use is the back for the steps coming out and the front for the steps as well. Just the front and backyard. It's not a substantial variance, it's just for the steps.
Okay. So basically, just to kind of recap it, the first plan was to, subdivide the property. That didn't work, so the second plan is going to be now to basically at least get two families out of it, with a side-by-side.
One curb cut.
What's that?
One curb cut.
One curb cut. On that side of Lincoln, how wide is the curb, not Lincoln, on that side of Park Avenue, because that's between Lincoln and Monroe, is it right?
Lincoln
No.
and Franklin.
Lincoln and Franklin, okay.
It's 2 doors down from Nolan's.
Right, so now that curb cut, how is that going to change now at this point?
It's going to increase a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
Like I said, we're going to be compliant on the curb cut. It's just going to be able to drive 2 cars.
So he's going to provide, then how many off-street spots on
There's
that?
going to be 2, and then if you could fit in front of the garage, there'll be more, but you can drive right into the garage from the street.
Okay, what's the height of the homes? So the height of the homes are going to be within code?
The height of the
correct?
homes are within code. I supplied you all the surrounding homes are all 2 families. It's consistent with the neighborhood. There's a 6-family across the street. There's
Okay, yeah, I
the bar
know.
2 doors down.
Oh, that's on that block, right? That's not the
Yes.
block between, that's right, that's not between Monroe and Long Beach Road. That's between Lincoln and Franklin.
Lincoln and Franklin.
Okay. Yeah, on the south side of the street. How many units is that house? 6, you said?
Across the street, it's 6
Yeah.
units. Yeah.
Okay.
Directly across the street.
Yeah, I think that was the subject of some variances a few years ago anyway. Okay, so basically what we're dealing with is now, just to summarize it, we're dealing with basically a knockdown for the majority of it, maybe keeping a wall or 2, I guess, for, the purposes of calling it a renovation. We're gonna have a side-by-side 2-family house. How big is the apartment, or how big are the apartments in both of them?
2,500 square feet each.
Okay. So that translates to what, like 3 bedrooms, basically? Not 3 bedrooms, 2 baths? Okay, so then the curb cut is going to increase slightly. You said, what would you call slightly, a couple of feet?
Yeah, a couple of feet, just enough to get the 2 cars into the garages.
Okay. All right, and it is a big lot. I mean, it's 100 by 100. Does anybody have any questions?
So I assume it's FEMA elevation acceptable, but you're only going about 5 feet or so above the grade, but you're still achieving the FEMA. You're not going to have an 8-foot basement on the bottom, it's just 5 feet.
There's no plan to be coming back in front of the board then for a height
There's no
request at
plans
some
for that.
point,
You
saying that we
ha-
couldn't do
you
it?
have
No, I
the
know, we got
plans.
the design here, so. we
Well,
would have to
Mr. Apple
design.
did say that it sounded like for the steps, the rear steps and the front steps, you would require a variance.
Right, that's in this application.
Yeah. I don't have any further questions. Any members of the board?
Do you have a
Any
set
other
of
questions?
plans?
They were submitted, I believe, by the commission.
That's what I'm asking.
Last one? Should be. You have them? I have another set if you need it.
Wanda has one.
Any members of the board? Anybody want to speak in?
The vast majority. It's going to make this more consistent with the neighborhood. I think maybe one or two on a 2-block radius and not 2 families or more.
Is there any kind of hardship or hardship that's making you seek a 2-family variance going from a 1 to a 2? Because it's not normally what we do.
The only thing I could offer with that is there's a possibility he's going to move into one and his daughter's going to move into the one next door.
Is the property still currently up for sale?
It's for sale if I don't achieve what I'm trying to achieve. Is anyone under contract vendee?
No, he owns it.
You know what, let's just get his name on the record, because he answered a couple of questions, Mr. Apple. Sir, would you want to just give us your name and address for the record?
P-A-N-O-B-I-A-N-C-O, 750 Lido Boulevard, apartment 109B, Lido Beach, New York, 99561.
Thank you. Yeah, we just needed that. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody else in the audience now? Anybody want to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak against? Does anybody want to make a motion on this case? All right, then the case, I guess, will remain open until next month. All right, thank you, folks.
I would like for this to be addressed now.
Yeah, the problem is, there wasn't anybody that wanted to make the motion tonight, so I guess they want to think about it. And if, you know, we don't have people that, to make a motion and we can't vote on it, you know? All right?
Case number 3348, application of a Wilder Family LLC of 66 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, to maintaining the new height at 66 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 234, Lot 21, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Apple.
Kenneth Apple. My client, the owner of the construction company, Kevin Simon, is here. Obviously, you can see by this application, we were in front of you, Mr. Wilder purchased a vacant lot. He's bought it for about $500,000. He's already spent over $600,000 to build a new home. His wife has family here. They've been here forever. They currently live in D.C. He was looking for a place to live down here, and now, at the final framing inspection, it was discovered that it's 11 inches over the plans. Now, just so you understand, and obviously the applicant really had nothing to do with this. This is a complete error, and it was not an error that created living space. There was 6 or 7 things that were 3/4 of an inch to an inch that ended up totaling 11 inches. It spread over 3 floors. The floor system was leveled, which was 1 3/4 inches. It made minimal changes to the ground floor parking area. The framer over-accounted for 5/8 of an inch thickness of sheetrock at the ceiling and 1 1/4 of the floor finishing. There were 6 or 7 things that led this to be 11 inches. The cost of correcting this would be devastating because it's not like we just reduce something 11 inches and get it approved. And the applicant would have a severe hardship if this wasn't approved. I know you, and I think you brought it up one time about insurance. There's no malpractice insurance from contractors. He's here to testify if need be, you know, hat in hand. This would be devastating to his company if he had to correct this. It's just an error. It's 11 inches, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it looks like the other houses on the block. It's not even noticeable. And obviously, you know, we're seeking your relief to allow Mr. Wilder to finish his house, who has nothing to do with this.
So, if I may, in looking at the plans, we see that there's the glass enclosure or the glass rail, and then it goes to the back of the house where you have a pitched structure there. What is in there? What's that housing? The back of the house, where that pitch structure is, please?
I'm gonna have Mr. Simon testify just because he's the builder, and he's prepared to answer the specific questions on the bill.
Good evening. Kevin Syme, 10 Monroe Boulevard. So
Is
in that,
Is it the railing or the midpoint of the roof that's high?
I think it's the midpoint of the roof. I'm a little actually confused as to where we failed. Between the architect and Mr. Shu and myself, we've gone through it a number of different ways. What you're referring to as the doghouse on top of the roof are all mechanicals. There's HVAC is in there, fresh air relief, and also elevator mechanicals
Okay.
are inside that doghouse.
How do you get to there?
There's stairs that go up to the rooftop.
Is there any way, well, okay. Do the stairs go directly into that house there? I
No,
would have to think so.
The stairs go up, and then there's a turn, and it comes back around to the front of the doghouse. The doghouse is in an L shape to the back of the house.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Normally I always recommend asking permission as opposed to forgiveness in these scenarios because of the cost, but this one was unexpected. And Mr. Shu did his inspection, and obviously we're not disputing his results. It just was a few things that led to this. You know, Mr. Simon's been building here for years, and he's never had this issue. This is, you know, obviously unexpected.
Was the architect doing the inspections to make sure it was being constructed for new plans? Where did the people who were hired to manage this?
You know, he was, but like I said, I tried to get him he's out of the state. I was gonna have him come tonight as well. And, you know him, I mean, you guys know him as well as anybody as well, Mr. Joyce, and he doesn't normally do this either. He's had hundreds of sets of plans in front of the board and the building department. It was just an error on multiple counts. But they were all small errors. There's no protection with errors and omissions at all because there's no insurance for that. So if Mr. Simon was gonna have to correct this, he would be out of business.
You say he's built other houses in the area?
Yes.
How many other houses have you built?
I've built many in Minnesota, and then I've built two in East Bay. I've done hundreds of construction projects in town and never built an inspection. My father was a builder here. I've been building since I was 12 years old down here. I've never been in front of the board before, because we've never had a problem, and I never see really variances or relief. I try to just build within the code and not have to aggravate you folks and come in here and spend time doing it. This has just been, there was several spots where there was like an inch or two, and even in leveling out and putting the flat roof on, there's an inch and 3/4 just in the flat roof, and then the padding of the EPM roof and the installation. This is just something that it surprised all of us.
It's like I said, it's not like we snuck 11 inches of living space in somewhere to try to get over on anybody. And Mr. Wilder's obviously the one who's suffering. He's the applicant.
What's the height of each floor? Inside height?
Well, the height was shown the way it was supposed to be built, so it passed the code at that point. So apparently, the in-between floor spaces.
Right.
That's what did it.
Where it seems to have grown.
Right, that's why I'm asking, that.
Yeah, we didn't gain
To
any
your
living
point,
space
like-
in these 11 inches.
Right,
We didn't
instead of
get
8
anything
feet now,
internal.
they're 8.5 feet, then,
No, they're built like that, the floor-joist system.
We're really trying to discourage people making mistakes on purpose.
No.
It doesn't.
Right.
And then coming back to us after.
Well, and that's why,
A few of those recently.
that's why I said to you, we didn't gain living space. There was no benefit to making this mistake.
So the attic is not occupiable. I know there's a roof deck up there, but the space under the pitched roof is not room.
It's no mechanical.
Anybody else? Anybody from the audience want to speak in favor or against? Anybody want to make a motion on it?
You know, like I said, we're trying to discourage it, but, you know, I don't see the harm in this one. It doesn't seem to stand out.
Yeah, you going to move to grant?
Well, comparing to other cases, I agree, since the attic is not actually a loft or a living space. I agree that they didn't do it to create any occupiable space.
I'll make a motion to grant as long
All right, I'll second.
as long as you don't do it again.
Yeah.
Case
Yeah.
number
Well, you know, actually, quite
3348.
honestly, we never saw him before the board. I mean, if he's built as many things like in town,
Oh,
we never saw him before the board.
Jim
He never
Morello.
came for a variance that I
Yeah,
can
so
remember
Leonetti
the years that
had
were
that.
on it. So I definitely agree that this, if anything, has to be some sort of series of honest mistakes. And I don't see any reason to penalize him on this.
There's no benefit to these.
No, I get it, I get it. So he made the motion to grant, I'm seconding the motion.
Case number 3348, application of A. Wilder Family LLC of 66 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, to maintain a new height at 66 Virginia Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 234, Lot 21, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Good night.
Case number 3134, application of PSG Construction Incorporated and 180 Park LLC, care of Paul Grossman of 54 Regent Drive, Lido Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.15B front yard, 9-105.15D side yard, 9-105.15E building height, 9-105.15H off-street parking, for renewal of variance number 3134 for construction of a new two-story commercial building at 180 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 110, lots 32 through 35, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jim Morelli, members
How are
of
you?
the zoning board, council. Robert Solomon, 24 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for the petitioner in this matter. We're here on a renewal. A lot's happened since this variance was granted on the eve of COVID, January of 2020. I submitted an affidavit from an officer of PSG Construction, who's here tonight. Paul Grossman is here with me. He's the owner of the company, with the history of what's gone on with the DEC. I won't bore you with all the details. I hope everyone had a copy of it and you saw
Yes.
what we're contending with. It took 2 years till they got back to my client with the response to the original feasibility study. So I think we got the variance in January. My client promptly demolished the building, as everyone's seen, and fenced it, and got rid of the sign, and made it ready, and submitted the feasibility study around then, February, March of 2020. It wasn't until March of 2022 that they came back. They needed more soil samples, and at the time it wasn't so easy to find an engineer to do the soil samples. Everyone was so busy, but he did find a company to do it. They did it commencing in April, so about right after. And then in May, they submitted some other plans, and then finally they did the sampling, and they submit the sampling, and then of course they sat on it for a while. Another 5 months elapsed, and then they finally told us to resubmit the feasibility study, which we did. We found that in November of 22. They said resubmit with our comments. We resubmitted the feasibility study with the sampling, and then we were told, oh, it's going to be a matter of a couple of months. So we pursued them in January and February of 2023, and they kept telling us they're shorthanded. But to shoot to the bottom line here, it sounds like it's going to happen very quick, very soon. My client wants a bill. He's ready, you know, as soon as we get the okay from DEC, he's going to move soil, he's going to do everything he needs to do. So I guess the bottom line here is Alex Lecton reached out to John Sheehan, who's the chief geologist over there on April 18th, and he said they were waiting on a clearance from DOH, and he said back there that the meeting went very well with DOH, and that he's shooting for early May to get a final on the PRAP. That's what you need. You need a proposed remedial action plan. So if all works, we're going to get it in May, and then we're going to start.
So now, I just have a couple of questions, because having gone back to the original case, and for the benefit of people who weren't on the board, this was the spot of nuclear cleaners.
Right.
Everybody was concerned. We heard a case where the owner was looking to, you know, demolish it, put 2 stories, residential, not residential, commercial on the first floor. The upstairs was supposed to be perhaps a dance school.
Right.
Was it a relative, like a son or daughter of the owner, that was going to operate the dance academy?
Right, they were all here. If you remember, it was
Yes,
a long
I do.
time ago.
So-
We had all the dance
So
people.
Mr. Grossman, if I remember correctly, this is all just going off the
Yeah,
top
that's
of my
right.
head, he had done renovations before and remediations before in New
Right.
York City.
Right.
So he was very familiar with sick buildings
Right.
that had chemicals or whatever in the land. Right, Mr. Grossman, you are the Mr., just tell us on the microphone, Mr. Grossman, because I remember this very well off my memory.
Okay, I built a couple charter schools in Brooklyn that
Right.
also the same thing. There was 200,000 square feet properties, not like 8,000.
Right,
so.
and just your name and address, Mr. Grossman.
Okay. Paul Grossman, 54 Regent Drive, Lido Beach, New York, 11561.
Good, so I remember Mr. Grossman telling the board, for the benefit of everybody here, that he had done remediation on buildings in the city, he had remediated 6 buildings, he had experience, and as I remember, the only concern was basically people were worried about kids getting in and out of the building, in the back of the building, or where the parking lot was in the back of the building that was city property, were they gonna enter and park through that parking lot? You know, would it be dangerous for kids to be getting dropped off on Long Beach Road or in front of the building? And I believe that all those questions were answered in 2019. So we certainly understand the way wheels work, and quickly or, you know, slowly. So we understand what Mr. Grossman went through, his family. I don't think we need to belabor that. We can attach the record, certainly from 2019. For the sake of completeness to this record, I would like to see that done. I don't feel that we should penalize Mr. Grossman any more than already time has not been kind to him in 3 years. I'm sure he's paying taxes and he's doing everything that he needs to do on this land. That being said, so let's fast forward now to 2023. What changes or what are being proposed here for the application relative to what we approved in 2019?
Nothing, same, it's just a
Absolutely nothing.
renewal of that application. We commenced construction, we got
Right.
stopped by DEC.
Right.
And we would, just so you know, they were being pretty vigilant with, Alex was contacting
Right.
Ms. Lynch and getting 6
Yeah,
months.
I
And then he
don't-
just missed the
I don't
event.
personally feel that there's any need to beat this to death with, you know, rehearing the whole thing. I think certainly the record of 19 was very thorough. We spent a lot of time, there was a lot of audience participation, and I think that we came as a board to a very reasonable determination. I think that determination still stands. Nothing's changed substantially in the town there since then. The fact that he did a demolition that, to me, looks pretty neat. I mean, I drive by there, I don't see a lidded, you know, lot. It looks like pretty.
They have artwork on the.
What's that?
They have artwork on the
Yeah,
barricade.
I think Mr. Grossman has certainly done a commendable job. I think he has shown the fact that he has respect for the city, that he has done things in a way that is very professional. At this point, if there's any questions, I think we have answered every question we could possibly ask them in 2019. I'd like to see if there's anybody from the audience who'd like to speak for or against. No. And that being said, I am going to move to grant this.
I second that.
Case number 3134, application of PSG Construction Incorporated and 180 Park LLC, care of Paul Grossman, 54 Regent Drive, Lido Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.15B front yard, 9-105.15D side yard, 9-105.15E building height, 9-105.15H off-street parking, for renewal of variance number 3134, construction of a new two-story commercial building at 180 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 110, lots 32 through 35, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
night.
Good evening.
Good night.
Case number 3349, application of the Burnett Family Trust at 14 Overton Road, Ossining, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4D side yard, 9-105.4E rear yard, to maintain a deck at 18 July Walk, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 4, Lot 32, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening. Name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Levittown.
Okay. So, please tell us about why this deck was built without the proper authorization, and how did this come to pass? Was it the result, maybe a violation received that you're here tonight, or that your applicant is here tonight?
No, so the applicant did not receive a violation. They purchased this home in 2010 as a summer home. They live up in Ossining. And shortly after Hurricane Sandy, they filed an application to make the home FEMA compliant and raise it. And they hired a contractor, architect, took care of the permits. The end of 2015, it was finished. The deck was built according to the plan they thought. Not living in the area, they weren't there for the day-to-day. They went to file the final survey and close out the CO, and that's when they found out that it wasn't built according to the plan.
That was
During
in 15,
construction.
That was in 15 or now?
That was in 2015.
Okay.
And during construction, the first contractor just went missing. They had to hire a new contractor. So the second one was the one who finished it. And they just can't figure out how it really happened. They went to close out, as I said, in 2016, I believe it was. Our office wasn't involved in the application. The architect went and said, get your final survey, and that's when they found out that it was not built to plan. And then the architect started to backpedal on what happened with the application.
Who was the architect?
We don't know who the prior architect was. Our new architect that they hired is the one who is following up now to try to legalize
And who is
everything. That is Gabby.
Oh, Chiclarian.
Yeah, thank you. It's so hard to pronounce the last name.
But you see, here's the question that I have. The question I have is, so I go when I file plans, because I buy a house, or, I want to renovate my house, or whatever I want to do with it, I want to raise it, okay? So basically, the architect gives me a plan, whoever the architect is, and I look at the plan and I say, ooh, that's a nice plan, and now the architect tells me that we're going to put a deck on the back of the house, right, the way I'm drawing it out. At some point in time, my question is, they never saw the plan? In other words, they just gave an architect and a builder carte blanche and not ever asked any questions about, hey, you know what, is the building going to be too high? Is it going to be too wide? You're putting this deck on the back of the house, so basically we're led to believe that basically somebody would just give carte blanche to an architect and to a builder and not ask any questions. In other words, that would be like one of us, saying, hey, gee, you know what, let's build the house, and, Frank, give us the plan, and, oh, nice, go ahead. I would think that at some point, even if they're not, here on a day-to-day basis from Ossining, somebody on the paying side would have to have given approval for this thing to be built, plain and simple. you know?
Yes.
And the bottom line is that now, you know, everybody's claiming ignorance, everybody's claiming, you know, we didn't know, the other architect, he disappeared, you know. And yes, we can believe that during COVID, not COVID, I'm sorry, Sandy, that this happened. I mean, architects were engineers and builders. I mean, they had their hands full, you know, they were trying to rebuild town after town after town. So I understand people would kind of disappear and take on maybe too many jobs at once, or take 10 jobs on when they didn't have the staffing to even work 3 jobs. And yes, they disappeared. But now, this thing got built. And now we went from 2012, fast forward to 2015, you know, this thing comes up for, let's say, a review, you know, for a CO. So at that point, nothing got picked up in 2015?
Nothing got picked up in 2015, and the original plan that was submitted, we were told that, no, and what we were told, and this is probably why it wasn't picked up, is that the original plan that was sent in was a compliant deck. And if you look at the photographs of the house or the plan itself, you'll see that the house on the rear has sort of an L-shaped, a little bit of a cutout.
Right.
And so the plan was just to square it off, meeting the 4-foot side yard setback, the same as the house, and the rear yard setback. So it sort of doesn't make sense as to why there's a strange extension. It's not even usable space. It's odd what happened.
Would you know,
Go ahead.
just real quick, would you know if the original house was the same dimensions that it is now? Was it?
The actual house itself or the
Right.
deck?
What-
So the house was raised with the same dimensions. That's what we were, yes. The deck,
Well,
I
I
don't
mean-
know about any pre-existing deck.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out if this was a pre-existing footprint that just got raised. That's why I'm asking, was there a 4-foot setback on each side with the original house that now is dealing with this 1-foot setback? Because that makes a difference quite a bit as far as how our decision-making goes as well.
Yes, the house was raised at its original setbacks, the house itself, yes.
So that bump out that goes out to the deck, that's an entrance to like a side room or a kitchen or what?
Correct. It's a bump out that goes into, let me just validate that for you.
I'm gonna go on Google Earth and see how far we can go back.
Okay.
It's a Walk's house.
What's that? I know. I mean, those houses and the walks are very tight as it is, you know, it's kind of hard, you know, when something is done for it to not be spotted because people in the neighborhood, you know, realizing something's being built too. So then, now, I want to fast forward from 16.
You want me to answer your question? Sorry. So the bump out, there is an entrance to the existing master bedroom,
Master bedroom.
as well as the kitchen.
So this deck, I mean, are we looking to allow for the way it just bumps out a little bit again from there to the property? Is that what's going on with the deck?
That's really all it is. If they were to had followed that line of the house, they would have met the 4 feet, but it's the small section that bumps out, yes.
And that's what triggers the variance in and of itself, just that.
Correct.
All right, so the thing is, now, we fast forward from 16 and we fast forward to 19, let's say, or now, even. So, nobody's saying anything in 15, nobody's saying anything in 16. How all of a sudden did this come to light? Were they looking to sell the house? You know, did it come up on the CO, on the survey, that somebody else is buying the house? How did this come up? And my question would be, why are they here now in front of us if nobody has said anything for 6 years? What prompted this?
They are not looking to sell the house. They have been just trying for years to get this taken care of. Unfortunately, with COVID, everything got delayed, and then they had to hire a new architect and just basically.
Like 2016, right? They knew there was a problem, basically. How were they alerted to that problem? That's the question.
When the prior architect had mentioned to them they needed to obtain a final survey and they wanted to close out and get their CO, that's when they were made aware of that.
Okay, and that was what year?
What's
No,
that?
16?
16 or 17, I believe.
Okay, so nobody ever came around then and gave them a summons or anything like that?
No, no summons, no violation. Nope, that's what they're trying to do. They've hired, as I said, they've obtained a new architect, Gabby, and they've been going through the process. They would like to just have everything finalized legally.
All right, any other questions? Anybody in the audience want to speak for?
Do we know if there's been any
against?
feedback from the adjacent neighbors?
No feedback from the neighbors, no.
Anybody else? Anybody in the audience? Okay. I'd move to grant if anybody wants to second it. If not, we'll wait.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
Case number 3349, application of Burnett Family Trust of 14 Overton Road, Austining, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.4D side yard, 9-105.4E rear yard, to maintain the deck at 18 July Walk, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 4, Lot 32, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton? Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti? Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right, good night. You're welcome.
Case number 3350, application of 86 Illinois Avenue LLC of 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2A off-street parking curb cut size, 9-113.2H off-street parking design, to maintain the curb cut size at 86 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 112, Lot 10, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly.
Good evening again, Chairman Morelli, Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of the applicant, Michael Goldstein. This is a case involving 86 Illinois, in which we have a curb cut of 38 feet, which is 13 feet wider than what's allowed by code, that being 25 feet. We're also asking for a variance to allow for tandem parking. I have 8 photographs I'd like to submit into the record, a copy for each of you.
Thanks.
In the first photograph of the packet is the house in question. That's 86 Illinois. It's on a wider lot on the west end of Long Beach. It's new construction. It's an existing, or was an existing two-family house, and it still is. The issue really arises as a result of the 3 bays that you see that have been created with the stanchions holding up the cantilevered house. That curb cut is the 38 feet wide curb cut I made reference to. The applicant, Mr. Goldstein, sought to create as much off-street parking as he could in the construction of the home, and therefore created these 3 bays, which would accommodate 6 cars if parked tandem in the 3 different bays. The curb cut is not out of character necessarily with the neighborhood, because if you look at the next photograph, you'll see 95 Illinois Avenue, which is a house with 2 driveways and a small curb in front of the location of the front stairs that lead to the front door. That curb's not enough to accommodate a car. So that's ostensibly taking away all the parking between one side yard to the next.
Do you know if that's an approved curb cut?
I don't know.
I just don't understand, looking at this, I mean, I'm assuming that what was originally granted as per the plan, because again, it looks like he ended up widening the curb cut to 38 feet on his own. It may be in an attempt to gain a little more parking for his residents, but again, you know, where that, you know, it's got 2 doors, 2 bay doors, 2 garages, and to the right of the 2 garages is what appears to be, another door to walk in through the bottom of the house. I mean, I don't know what made him think it was okay where that black Ford is, or whatever it is, I think it's a Ford, is parked, to just make another curb cut there and extend it, because if I'm looking at the photograph, if that curb cut were to have ended at the pole to the passenger side of that black SUV, and then combined with the space of where that white Audi is on the street, that would certainly have been the spot for another car that would have parked publicly on Virginia Avenue. And just looking at, Mr. Kelly, looking at, how tight the parking that, unfortunately, FEMA has solved, a headache for itself with, demanding that houses be elevated, but has wrecked the parking in our town, because now, many of these homes that have, underground not underground, but on first level parking, I would venture to guess if one would have walked down the block at night, they'd probably see TVs and pool tables and everything else, playing where those garages should be for cars. That being said, and I'm sure that could be easily verified as true. The bottom line is the fact that it appears to me that he took it upon himself to widen the curb cut from what were 2 driveways in front of 2 garage doors to make a 3rd bay for the convenience of his tenant, perhaps, has taken a spot off the street, at least one spot, because clearly you could park if you drew a line where that second pole is, where the staircase is, the second pole going to the left of it, you could easily park a public car from there to where the Audi is on the street. So, he really only made a spot for his tenant and took away a spot from the street. If it were truly a 2-family house, which I believe, I have no reason to believe it isn't, he would have had at least 4 spots in the provided, garage space right now, and then certainly in front of the garage door within the confines of his deck. I just don't understand why he would have thought it was okay to just widen that curb cut from, was it 26 feet all the way to 38? I mean, 38 is a monstrous size curb cut, and even though it is a 2-family house, does a 2-family house really need, especially in a tight spot like the West End, does it really need 38 feet taken off the street? I don't think so. So unless you can explain it to me differently. What's that? Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like it was not necessary to do that. And I don't think that having that car parked right in front of what looks like an entrance door right there, right behind it, is even something that would even be desirable. I mean,
Well, that's not a legitimate spot either. That's not a legitimate spot.
No. And so the thing is, why would we want to allow him to maintain that curb cut going over from the second pole and not, fill it back in with cement and just make it a sidewalk where someone else could park in front of it? I mean, I'm sure the neighbors can't be happy about it. I mean, and yes, again, we have the situation now that, and we hear this all the time, if you have a doctor's appointment or you have not, forget about going out to dinner even, but if you have a necessary appointment, medical appointment or something like that, there is no place to park anymore in the West End because of all these curb cuts, which, again, I stand by what I said, I will bet that cars don't even use them in half of them, and half of those first flood floors, if you will, are converted to playrooms and dens and everything else.
Well, that's a dynamic that it's historical.
Yeah.
Right?
So-
I mean, before Sandy, when we had garages,
So
you probably can
people
count
that
on one
basically,
hand who was using their garages.
remediated the problem for themselves in terms of insuring for future damage, but, that the payouts will be less, but they have definitely wrecked the parking in our town. And the bottom line is that, I think that it would probably behoove him to take away that curb cut and fill it back in. I mean, I don't really see any hardship or any reason for that curb cut to exist.
Well, given the fact that I represent a client, I'll just touch a couple of points.
But I don't want to...
Mr. Chairman, I can't necessarily disagree with you.
I know, Mr. Kelly, I know, because you, like the rest of us, are victims living in this town, having to go down west and try to park,
Yeah.
and try to go, visit a chiropractor or a physician, whatever. you know, or a store. And the bottom line.
Or my
is, I mean,
mother.
This kind of situation only exacerbates it, you know? I mean, and it's,
I think, I think his intention is both selfish and, believe it or not, altruistic. In his mind, he's thinking two ways. He's thinking, my apartments are going to be more marketable if I provide the parking, number one. Number two, I'm providing parking, therefore they're not
Right.
parking on the
And
street.
Again, believe me, I'm not saying he's
Right.
a bad man for
You know.
wanting to do this. I understand. I mean, and I maybe do the same thing if I were in his position. I'm just saying it's not incongruity, let's say, with what we need to be doing in the West End. I think we need to be, you know, preserving on the residential streets. And I mean, I know that, you know, we have heard cases of eliminating some parking spots here and there, but they're different situations. This is something that on a residential street, it's different because he already has 2 parking spots, which should be adequate enough parking theoretically for his, you know, tenants or whatever. I just think that this, in the other opposite direction, took it over the top a little bit, you know, and I think that if we could grant parking to another local resident of that block, it might be a better thing, you know.
This house looks like a fairly new house.
It's new.
So when the plans were submitted, were they submitted like this?
I doubt it. I haven't looked at the plans, but I've got to assume that it was either no curb cut, because I've seen that on plans, or there was a 25-foot curb cut, because, you know,
Okay.
the building department would have seen it. And I will check it and confirm for
Yeah, I
you,
don't have
Commissioner,
any
whether it
further-
was or not.
Any further questions? Anybody else on the board? Anybody in the audience want to speak in favor or against? In favor? Come on up, please.
Good evening, my name is Gerald William Smythe, live at 91 Illinois Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11561. I have a petition signed by my neighbors. Please bear with me, I'm not a public speaker.
It's okay.
If you look at that picture, you'll see that that first curb cut to the left starts at his property line. The curb cut is greater than 40 feet. Property line, property width is 45 feet.
Okay.
Excuse me. When putting that in, he also had to remove a speed bump sign, which he did not put back in. The speed bump sign that the city put in. He did not put that back, because he couldn't, because it was.
So I just want to get this straight though, Mr. Boxmeyer, you're speaking against this, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, because I asked, you know, for or against, and
And I put my head back down.
No, I know, no, I wasn't clear. So go ahead, please.
He removed the speed bump sign because he couldn't put his curb cut with it there. He never put it back. It's missing. Taxpayers paid for that. He's also got more people living in both those apartments than Long Beach allows. And they don't park underneath all the time.
Okay.
Like you had mentioned, they don't. They do on the weekends when they can't find spots, but no.
I understand.
He put that curb cut in about January. I went to Mr. Shu, and he told me he will not get a CFO until he fixes it. We're here now because he put a variance in.
Okay.
That could have been designed better, so they could have used 125-foot curb cut
I understand.
and got a lot of cars under there.
Okay.
He didn't. I think that's really all I have to say.
No, we got it, we understand. You heard the line of our questions,
Yes,
so.
yes.
All right,
And,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
for your opinion. If there's, no one else wants to say anything, I'm going to move to deny.
I'll second.
Just for the sake of the record, I'd ask that you don't. Just let me submit a letter relative to the questions that were asked. What's that?
We'll hold it over.
Yeah. I mean, I know where this is going, Mr. Chairman. I just,
You
Yeah,
like
I mean,
to
what's
withdraw
that?
your motion?
I'll retract my motion if nobody else wants to vote on it. I mean, I would have been prepared, because I don't, to be honest, Mr. Kelly, I don't see what anything that came out would come out differently to change my opinion. I'm going to be honest.
I fully expect a unanimous no,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if you're asking us to leave it open
Right.
for the purposes of continuity of your,
Yeah,
of
just,
your
just,
presentation,
because
we would-
I also tell my clients.
No, we'll grant you that grace, but I would say, quite honestly, I don't see in my mind, I'm saying it now, I'm stating it on the record, I don't plan on changing my vote.
I fully expect a unanimous no. I'm not concerned about that. I will tell you one thing, so you do know, and I repeat this to all my clients, there is a distinct, since Sandy, there's a distinct possibility, if there's no controversy concerning the issue, that the issue will get granted. I have never, and you might correct me now, I'm here a lot, but I'm not here all the time. Have you ever voted no on the same night? Of the hearing? You have? Okay, I haven't been here for that.
We have.
I don't want to be the, I don't want to be the first victim.
No, but we have, yes.
We have one extension. We have one
We've
extension.
we've actually had some nights, I think, over the years when we voted yes on one case, you know? I mean, it happens.
Right.
But, all right?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
We just have one administrative extension.
ahead.
Case number 3313, application of Camilla and John Poppin of 433 West Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, for a 6-month extension of the variance granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals to convert a garage to living space and maintain off-street parking in the front yard of 433 West Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 31, Lot 60, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Just so you know, the building department's going to be issuing the permits within the next couple of days, but they didn't want it to expire
Okay.
before then. So, who'll make a motion?
I will move to grant it.
Who'll second?
I'll second.
Okay, Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application extension request. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Lees?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application extension request has been granted.
What's the address, Rob?
It is
Thank you,
433 West Hudson.
ladies and gentlemen, for your cooperation, and this meeting is now closed.
Just tell Davey we're done and turn off the camera.
Good
Mike,
meeting,
fine.
Chairman, good meeting.
I'm sorry?
Joe, regarding the,
Yes, I want that. Just throw it. Thank you.
Wow. Terrific.
does that mean, in writing, you mentioned it to me.